Hello Exile, you're watching Altec 2K Gaming. This is the first in a series called Path of Exile 101. In these I'm going to go over the basics of the game. In this one I'm going to cover all the game modes, who they're right for, and what you should be playing as a beginner. Let's get straight to it. When you log in and click create, you get presented with a screen that looks like this. And this is a lot of options to choose from, but we can make the screen look like this and it would be exactly the same, only simpler. So your first choice, Standard or Challenge League? Standard just happens to be the league where all my characters go to die. I never play them again, well, there are some exceptions. But that's only really to retest old builds in a new league. Standard is the persistent game mode. In this mode, you never lose anything, it just accumulates forever. Challenge leagues on the other hand last for around 3 months, so once they're done, everything will end up in Standard. And then shortly thereafter another challenge league will pop up in its place. Challenge leagues are a great place to test out your new characters in a fresh economy. As a new player, there's no reason you should pick Standard because if you play the Challenge League, once it ends up in Standard anyway. Next, we can go over the 3 toggles. These are Solo SelfFound, otherwise known as SSF, Hardcore, and Ruthless. But first, the absence of toggles. This is also known as Softcore Trade League. In this mode, you can trade with other players, party with them, and even set up guilds. This is of course the easiest of all possible game modes. On to Solo SelfFound now, and this is really easy to explain. You're on your own. You can't set up guilds, you can't play with other players, you can't trade with them. This game mode is right for you if one of the following applies. Number 1. You like foraging or fending for yourself. Or maybe you're good at other ARPGs and you want a bigger challenge. Number 2. You hate people in general. Number 3. You hate the shambles that is the Path of Exile trade system, or the lack of it. And finally number 4, you're practicing a league start and so want something completely fresh. Characters in Solo SelfFound can be transferred to the parent league with a touch of a button, so you can change your mind if you've made the wrong choice. Hardcore. In this mode you have one life and one life only. Once you die, your character will be transferred straight to Standard. This game mode is for people who like abusing the system and logging out frequently to avoid death. This is actually how I started my Path of Exile journey, and it was a terrible mistake because I'm terrible at dodging bosses. I wouldn't suggest starting in this mode even if you're a pro at other ARPGs, and that's because you really need to learn the boss mechanics to avoid dying. And lastly we have Ruthless, but something to mention first. These toggles are not mutually exclusive, so you can play Hardcore Solo SelfFound or Hardcore Ruthless Solo SelfFound. You'll normally see this described as HCSSF. If you see that in a build guide, it means it's suitable for that kind of gameplay. Okay, Ruthless. There is only one kind of person in this world that will play Ruthless.
The crap out of me! Step on my cubes!
Yeah, you kinda have to like pain in huge quantities to want to play Ruthless. In Ruthless, you can't buy support gems from vendors, you don't get a free one in the Twilight Strand, and you also can't buy normal gems from vendors either, only get them as quest rewards. Now, as a new player, this probably doesn't mean much to you right now. You can find out more about gems in the 3rd video in this series. But as a general hint, they're the way that you actually build the powers onto your characters. Also in this mode, everything you buy from a vendor is so overpriced that when you first get to town, unless you've been exceptionally lucky, you won't be able to buy anything at all. In addition to this, the drop rates of everything have been reduced massively. The chance of dropping currency is probably about as likely if you're winning the lottery. In addition to all this evil, you also don't get your flasks refilled when you go back to town, and you can't get a movement skill. Also, you only get scroll shards for selling blue items unidentified, which is a bit crappy. And if you happen to mix the Hardcore and Ruthless buttons, then you'll have a problem. When you die, you don't go back to Standard, your character is simply deleted. Although depending on how you feel about cleaning up Standard, this might actually be a benefit. The best thing to remember when playing Hardcore or any derivation of it is that your stash becomes a great part of your progression. Things that you put in your stash before you die are passed on to the next character that you start in that mode. And now for my free tip for new beginners. For your first character, you are going to screw it up. Every person who plays does, so I'd strongly advise you choose someone else's build guide so you don't have that problem. Top left of the screen now, you will see my next guide in this series. The next guide will teach you all about the starting classes and why you might want to go for each. And this information is even more important than what you learned here. And with that, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.